alive! It's alive! It's alive!
I want to play a game.
Hello and welcome to the Sounds from the Grave podcast. My name is Yusuf,
And my name is Vanya.
and we are your horror friends till the end. And today we'd just like to welcome you to the first ever episode of the podcast.
Today we'll be discussing and having introductions of how we got into horror events that we have experience with. So, you want to go first, Yusuf?
Yeah, sure. So horror-wise, I didn't really grow up a lot with horror. It was I grew up with more of like suspense and thrillers. Like I would say the first relatively scary movie that I saw was Jurassic Park.
You would
And
consider that a scary movie?
I mean, it scared me as a kid just because I was like,
Bruh.
dinosaurs and stuff.
I mean,
Like I think
dinosaurs are supposed to be cool, though.
well, yeah, but like when you're like 3 or 4, because my parents let me watch that when I was like 3,
Uh,
that's different. um, but like I would say first official scary movie that I think I saw was probably it was either The Ring or The Grudge. I think it was one of those two.
mm,
And that's kind of what got me into it. Like I still remember, like, and I still think about it. That scene in The Grudge, like right at the end, where the ghost lady is like crawling down the stairs and she's like all bladed up and like covered in plastic. And I remember that scared the crap out of me the first time I saw it.
oh, man. I do remember seeing The Grudge when I lived in Puerto Rico. But I watched it with Spanish subtitles, and I just wasn't sure what I was reading half the time. But I don't think it was actually my first horror film. Now that I actually think about it, thinking that The Grudge was actually a Japanese-based film rather than. I mean, I feel like it was also recorded in America, right?
Yeah, well, if I'm not mistaken, it was actually because I know it's a remake of like Ju-on, but I think it was actually
Yeah.
made in Japan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I did that, and ever since then, actually, I've kind of have like a weird obsession with horror. Like I just kept trying to watch like horror movies. Like I ran through all the Friday the 13th. I ran through all the Freddys. I ran through all the Michael Myers stuff, and like it kind of just stayed with me. Like I don't know why. I just I've always enjoyed it, and figured why
Oh,
not do a podcast about it.
yeah, for sure. I first got into horror because my dad introduced me to Jeepers Creepers, and I know that it's a movie that's now contradicting, especially with the whole drama with the director and whatnot. But
Oh
I
yeah.
was very intrigued with Jeepers Creepers and Stay Alive, which is that awful movie of
Oh my
these
God,
teen.
Stay Alive. Yeah, the video game movie, right? Like
Yeah,
where you
that
die in
used
the
to.
game, you die in real life.
Yeah, I used to scare the living crap out of me, but I was obsessed with watching that movie. I would always watch it in the FX, those prepaid, like the prepaid film
Oh yeah,
type
yeah.
of like
Kind of like
uh,
pay-per-view stuff.
yeah, pay per view stuff.
Yeah,
But
it's
other
funny
than
enough. I
that,
actually remember like my parents took me to see that in the theater when it first came out.
uh,
Yeah,
not,
and
did you know
then
that that movie is actually like 9% on Rotten Tomatoes?
is it really?
Yeah.
I would have at least given it like at least like a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, 20%. That's very generous of you.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's up there, okay? It's definitely got some like cool like ideas and like unique stuff to it.
Yeah, I mean, it has a lot of like good graphics for being it based on a video game, and I think that even the effects makeup was really like greatly like incorporated. It's just like the storyline was a little bit too cheesy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Obviously, when you're now that you're older, you actually like see how everything that you progress from movies from beginning to end is kind of very different feel now than
For
what you're
sure.
used to back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, like I see that movie now actually kind of see it as a guilty pleasure now. Like I'll because I actually have it on DVD. Like I'll just pop it in just to kind of
Oh,
have a good little
lucky.
time with it.
I still need to find like my own little copy of it.
Mm.
I always also wondered like if I ever had a video game that was horror, if I like if that was an actual thing where you have to survive. and you're trying not to get killed by whatever entity. I feel like that now, like our generation of that is like Dead by Daylight or Friday the 13th,
Yeah,
basically.
I would say something like that. Yeah, especially with like now too when they keep coming out with like the VR games. Everything's just like even more immersive now.
I still haven't played a horror game in a VR yet.
I played Resident Evil 7 on VR on PS4, and it was not a fun time. I was not enjoying myself.
Were you scared?
No, I wasn't scared. It was just kind of like I wasn't used to it because I don't really play VR often. So I'm just not used to how VR works.
Oh.
Like I'm just used to a controller, and I kind of got disoriented after a bit because I'm just like I have to actually like look around and like see where I'm going instead of like just turning the camera.
Oh, you have to turn the camera? I thought you could just turn your head. Well, then again,
Well,
I
no,
know
no,
that.
no. You have to turn your head, and I wasn't used to it. So I'm just
Oh,
used to pressing the joysticks to move a camera. I'm like, oh wait, why am I not moving? It's because I have to actually manually like turn my head.
I wonder if anybody has actually like put the little sensors for the VR so you can know where you are. But then like you get so scared that you knock down one of the sensors and it's just like ah.
You just knock all over, like you just knock stuff down like all over the
It's like
place.
ah, I felt something touch me.
So horror wise though, what would you say is like your all time like favorite horror movie?
Ugh, every time I get asked this question, I can never really pinpoint it. It's just like I enjoy a lot of horror films and because I will see a movie and I'm like, this is my favorite horror film. But then I will see another one and it's like, that's my favorite horror film. But for now, at the top of my head, I know it's probably not considered a horror film. I mean, it's in the sub culture of like slashers is Bride of Chucky. I am obsessed with Bride of Chucky. I can quote it from front to back, and I just love that movie so much. But I also like enjoy like the newer movies like Conjuring, but I also like Bride of Frankenstein too. If we're talking classic horror films as well.
Okay. Yeah, I would kind of like divide it into that, like, like you start with your classics and then you move on to like your 70s to like 90s stuff and then you move on to like the current stuff. Like I have a different favorite movie for each one. Because like if I know that like Bride of Chucky I would consider like it's still a horror movie, but I would consider it more of like a horror comedy
Yeah,
because it's definitely got like really funny moments in it.
there's a lot of films that are like it's weird how like horror has like these different genres even within like the generic side of horror. And you have like the comedies, you have the slashers, you have the thrillers, you have the psychological thrillers. Is that considered a
Um
subculture of it? I'm not too
I
sure.
guess because I would consider maybe something like Seven by David Fincher. I would maybe consider that like a psychological thriller.
Wait, what director?
David Fincher.
I thought you said David Lynch. I'm like, we talking
No,
about
no,
that weird dude?
no. David Lynch is like that. I would no. That would be like a whole other episode. Just right. Just David Lynch would be one episode
Yeah.
because that man is insane.
I mean, I consider some of his stuff a little bit in on like drama thriller, but it's kind of like not
Mm,
exactly in the horror genre. But anyway, that's for another
yeah,
episode.
for sure. But
So, what is
yeah,
your favorite classic horror?
classic horror movie for me without a doubt is just the original Frankenstein. I've always liked
Yeah.
like the concept of like the misunderstood monster where like he's not a bad person, he's just in a like kind of like in the wrong place at the wrong time.
So, how do you feel about Bride of Frankenstein when you see like him trying to convey to her like he didn't want her to live the same life as he
I'm
did?
I mean, I think that's just like a beautiful like aspect to the film of it. It's like where like he's kind of become a cautionary tale and like people like are still trying to break the loss of nature and like he knows that like you're not supposed to do that because like this is I am what happens when you break the loss of nature.
Yeah,
Like
it
I
was
always
very
found that very
depressing
interesting. Oh yeah, for sure.
because it was like the last 5 minutes or like maybe 10 minutes she appears, and then he's like he tries to like save her from the misunderstanding of humanity that they might
Yeah,
treat her the same way they treated him, and then he's like, "Well, we're all just gonna die together, so pull that lever, pull the lever,
exactly.
Crunk." Yeah.
Lever.
This is Disney. Please, no Disney here.
No, no, no. Not unless we're talking like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, absolutely.
And then moving on from like classic Universal like monsters horror, I would probably move on to like what is actually like my all-time favorite horror movie. And that would probably be Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Texas Chainsaw. That did you know that was on Shutter right now?
Is it really? See,
Yeah.
I haven't seen it on Shudder just because I actually have like a physical copy, so I'm just like I can just watch it whenever I want.
Oh man, I
Yeah,
wish I had a place where I can keep all my horror films, but
yeah. I
I
ended
just
up building.
I
I
just
I
have so
built like a whole
much.
shelf just for my horror movies, just because like I have way too many at this point. But yeah, like I just that movie like just freaks me out just because like the way it's shot, it's almost like documentary style. It's like it's almost like it's a little too realistic, kind of, to the point where like that kind of stuff like grounded in reality just freaks me out a little bit.
So would you like consider one of those things that like that would scare you, even though like it is your favorite horror film, like having like the carving of the faces or chainsaws? And I mean, I know you kind of get scared a little bit at Halloween Horror Nights, but
Yeah,
you don't
yeah,
get
I do.
entirely.
No, well, for like I said, for me, it's like the fact that that's something that could totally happen in like a real life situation, like where you could literally get like kidnapped and like taken to somebody's straight up murder house.
Yeah,
Like
it
that
reminds me a
scares me.
little bit of a slaughterhouse.
Like that's one of those things where I'm just like I can't trust anybody. You know, like you could be Leatherface. You could be a Sawyer.
Oh, it's stranger danger.
Yeah, it's pretty much stranger danger.
And not like anybody actually believes in that anymore.
No, apparently not. No, but then, and if you're looking at like contemporary horror movies, that one's a little bit tougher for me
Mhm.
because it's just I don't really watch like I watch contemporary horror every once in a while, but for some reason I keep getting stuck watching like the Bloomhouse stuff and like don't get me wrong, I love Bloomhouse. They make amazing movies.
Mhm.
Um, but they're kind of like run of the mill like horror. They're not like they don't really try a lot of different things.
Mhm.
But if I would have to say one, it might be between Don't Breathe and the first Saw.
Oh my gosh, don't breathe. So I just had PTSD just now.
That
Um,
movie is oof. I remember I went to see that at Universal actually at like the City Walk Theater, and it's almost like similar to like the quiet to like a quiet place where like everybody in the theater was like super quiet.
mhm.
Yeah, like stuff like that where like everybody's like it's like a primal like thing of everybody in the theater just being super quiet because they're like super engrossed in the movie.
The last part of the movie just it was just so disturbing because
Oh
in
yeah,
quiet place you have to be quiet, but they have to be quiet because they're robbing an old man's house, and
yeah. It's
then
just
he
like
just
yeah,
grabs one of the girls and he doesn't mean it in a sexual way, but it definitely turns into something that way and is very
mm,
disturbing in
for
so many
sure.
levels. But I mean, I still enjoyed the movie. My opinion in Blumhouse, they make amazing movies. I totally agree with you, but like there's some things about Blumhouse that they really do cater to the college student aspect because they make a lot of college based movies,
They
especially with
do.
fraternities, like yeah, fraternities, sororities, and Black Christmas, the latest one that they released, it was definitely not what I expected because they did do something with a murder and then it was supernatural and then it just
Really?
turned into just one big like supernatural war with the like sororities and the fraternities and it was just like basically showing who's superior than the other one. So
Hmm.
but it's in a very um horror aspect, but they do cater a lot. Like basically another one is um Truth or Dare, I think was one of them.
Oh yeah, truth. Yeah,
Because
truth or dare was just. It was just kind of. I wasn't really a fan of that movie.
yeah, they do really cater to the college audience when they're not doing major
Definitely.
projects.
Yeah, like they definitely have like a specific like demographic that they go after, and for the most
Yeah.
part, they do succeed at that. So.
Yeah, because I know with their major projects they do it with Universal, but when
Mm-hmm.
they're doing individual projects just with their name just slapped on, they just do a lot of college based movies or sometimes they
Yeah.
even do like their own stuff sometimes, but I haven't seen a lot of things that do not have to do with that aspect. So if you guys know of any, throw it in the
Yeah,
Tweeters and the
we'll be sure to watch
Instagrams,
those.
please.
because I'm always down to hear suggestions and always watch something new. So lay 'em on me.
Yeah, I definitely suggest Shutter because I still haven't gone through all of the collection of Shutter, and they do have some really weird like individual like indie movies, and
Oh yeah, for
some
sure.
of them are super weird.
Yeah, like I remember. Funny enough, the first thing that I saw on Shudder was like the 7 hour Friday the 13th documentary, like Crystal Lake Memories.
It's a 7 hour documentary.
Yeah, I guess they straight up like go movie by movie.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I'm like, it's worth 7 hours of watching this.
You were off on that day, probably, right?
But no, I didn't watch the whole thing like in one sitting. I kind of just I watched it in like pieces. Like I think I watched like the first like 2.5 hours one day, and then I watched like another 2 hours the last day, and then I just finished it up like the next day after that.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah, it
think
was definitely interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the first things that I did see on Shutter, like some of the very first things, was the cursed films, where they talk about the films that were cursed
Oh yeah, I really want to see that. I haven't seen that
in
yet.
horror in basically the horror industry. Like they
Yeah.
talked about Poltergeist, Exorcist, The Crow, which I think it was very interesting that that was considered a horror film, but I get that it has a dark genre,
Yeah.
so
I
I
would
would
have actually just
understand why
called
that's on
it.
there.
Yeah, because I guess it would like fall under like maybe like gothic horror,
Yeah.
because kind of like the tragic hero type of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah. Now I think too like I think the second thing actually the one of the things I've watched on Shutter, because I had never seen it before and I kept hearing about it like over and over again, and like oh it was like one of the most controversial things ever made, but Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Cannibal Holocaust is very very strange. I There were points where I kind of got uncomfortable because there's a lot of rape in that movie. Like a lot of it. I'm just like I don't need to see all this. Like I
That
really
it
don't.
reminds me a little bit of I Spit on Your Grave.
Yes, yes.
Just
Kind of like that similar style, like that like 70s like exploitation style.
oh god. I mean, it's crazy because I actually watched that movie for the first time, but I did watch the actual remake in 2010, not the actual like 70s or
Oh yeah,
60s
yeah, yeah, I remember
version
that
of it,
remake. Yeah.
but like the most modern one is a little bit too graphic.
Hmm.
And I mean, not that I don't mind it because obviously it is very disturbing, but it did tell a really good retelling of the original one, which I thought was
Gotcha.
very interesting, to expand of things that could happen to a potential revenge film.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, the revenge story in like the 70s was like all over the place. Like almost every horror movie was a revenge movie at some point or another.
well, in the 70s, there was a lot
Yeah.
of more like horrors with, Ted Bundy and
Yeah.
all that other stuff with the
A
girls
lot of yeah, it
getting
was a
raped and
lot of
murdered.
like yeah, they kind of like stepped away from the kind of like the supernatural horror like a
Yeah.
lot through the 70s. It was more like the horror of like other humans.
And sometimes I also like wonder if like those stories actually influenced the slasher films that we have known to love in the 80s.
Oh, I definitely think so for sure. Yeah. I would definitely say that like movies like like I Spit on Your Grave, definitely Texas Chainsaw, even like The Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
Those like I feel like those type of movies like directly led into something like Black Christmas or like Halloween and stuff like that.
Yeah. Don't have sex or else a killer will kill you.
Yeah.
Terrible. Ugh. The
Don't know.
80s logic, I love it. But
It's
I
definitely that 80s like patriotic logic. It's like don't do drugs, don't have sex, be a good kid, you won't die.
yeah. It's crazy because I watched today for the first time Prom Night with
Oh my
Jamie Lee
God,
Curtis,
prom
and I
night.
was just like, "Oh God, it was in the early '80s. It was actually in 1980 that they shot that film,
Yeah.
and they were like still following before everything of slasher just became famous. It was just like, don't have sex, because I know that it has to do like with the murder of the friend that they
Hmm.
accidentally killed and all that stuff. But then sometimes like the high school kids were having sex, and then all of a sudden they get killed in like almost after or during it. I'm just like, This is I feel like
Yeah.
this is where it started. This is where it definitely started.
This is like the yeah, like because I think like it was Halloween that like started. Actually, I would say Black Christmas kind of started like the slasher genre. Halloween
Mm,
perfected it, and then Prom Night is the one that was like, we'll just go all out, just fuck it, we'll just do whatever we want on this.
yeah.
And then that would like that kind of opened the door for like everything else we see in like the slasher movies.
I wonder what because I haven't read too much into Nightmare on Elm Street, and I really should.
Hmm.
With what influenced that movie, especially with the dreams and with the girl, and of course with Freddy. So I've seen the movies. I just
Yeah,
kind of haven't seen the inspiration
the
behind them.
inspiration. Funny enough, I was reading up on that recently for just an unknown for just some reason,
For
and
shits and giggles.
yeah, pretty much for shits and giggles, yeah. And I just on like the curiosity of like where did like the story, where did Wes Craven get the idea to do Nightmare from? And it's really weird. It's he was reading this article of like during the Vietnam War when like a bunch of people from like I think it was southern Vietnam were like they fled the country and they moved to the U.S. A lot of them because of like overpopulation they had to be like separated into like different sections of the country, and for a lot of them it was like super stressful because they're like, oh, I'm like away from my friends and family. I live over here where like I don't know anybody. I don't know who I am, like where I am in this country. And specifically for men, they would have this thing where like the stress of that was like way too much, and they would go to sleep and they would just die in their sleep with like for like unknown causes.
Mm,
Yeah, like it was just
that's
called like it
interesting.
was straight up just called like sudden death syndrome.
Oh,
Yeah.
that that's that. I mean, that's one way to die naturally, even though it sounds like a terrible way to die
Yeah,
too.
cause like it's literally like almost like a sleep paralysis, but like worse.
Oh,
Cause
sleep
like straight up, it's like is it sleep paralysis or is it night terrors? Is that the one where you're like paralyzed, like you're like
Night
awake but your
terrors
body's asleep?
is night terrors is the actual former word for nightmares.
Mm.
But I feel like sleep paralysis is when you can't move your body at all, but you're still asleep, but your eyes are wide awake.
Okay.
So
Yeah, so it's like because I know that's when people like start like seeing hallucinations and stuff like that. Like a lot of the times, like people have said that they, like see like some sort of creature or like a demon like standing on top of them on their bed. And I'm like, that's
I
that's
wonder if that's
terrifying.
where the concept came from. It's just like,
Yeah,
oh,
something like
sleep
that. Like
paralysis
he
demon,
took
the
that
meme.
and then like he took that and then what he learned about like those South Vietnamese people, and he's like, that's like really scary. Like the fact
Yeah.
that like you can't fall asleep or you die.
Then I wonder where like his inspiration for Freddy. Like I would guess that would be like the type of demon that he would be referring to if he were to take inspiration from that
Yeah,
experience.
yeah. That's still like weird though. Like don't get me wrong, I love the Nightmare movies, but they've never really been like my favorite of the slashers. Just because like there's that for
Yeah.
me, there's still that disconnect
For me,
between
it's
like
the same way.
yeah, just because like it's not something that I'm like, oh, it's just he's just a dream creature. He's not like an actual thing.
Hmm.
Not like a Michael Myers or like maybe like the first like two or three times we see Jason, like part two and part three.
Yeah.
Because after that, he just turns into like a Terminator at that point, where he's just like a straight up just killing machine.
Yeah, because we actually like see that in Jason versus Freddy. I think it is. It's
Hmm.
just like he realizes like I'm real, you're not. So
Yeah.
you're just defeats the purpose of everything. So
Oh
Freddy
my
is
god.
definitely not my favorite at all
Yeah.
either. I mean, I
Like
think he's a cool concept,
oh yeah, and
but
definitely attitude wise, he's like amazing.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's funny that they also derived that concept in Rick and Morty, where they have like Scary Terry.
Oh yeah.
You can't run,
Where
you
like every
can't
other word is just
hide.
bitch.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it just in case there were younger users, but you already said it, so
No,
I guess we're
I
not
already said
catering to that.
no. I already dropped the F bomb earlier too. So
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
mean, don't
yeah,
listen to all, don't repeat everything you listen to, kids. Mm.
that's right. So so don't do drugs, stay in school, or don't go to school, stay in drugs. Whichever one works for you.
Oh God. what would you say is like your not so scary horror film like favorites? For me, it's
Like,
Hocus Pocus.
oh, Hocus Pocus. I love Hocus Pocus. Oh man,
I think
I
that
would
was a dark
actually.
time for Disney. It was a very dark time, but it was definitely beneficial to them.
I would say a dark time, and well, maybe like financially at the time it was dark, but like look at what it gave us. It gave
Yeah.
us the amazing movie that is Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, but like if you really think about it, like everything that's trending now in the parks and everything else is just vintage.
Yeah,
Everybody wants
exactly.
stuff back. Like Hocus
Which, by the
Pocus.
way, that
Yes.
begs the question. I'm over here like, where's the Black Cauldron merch?
Oh yes.
Like
Oh,
that movie.
it's
That
so
movie
dark.
is dark. I'm like, and I'm over here like, I want to see some, some merch for Black Cauldron. That movie needs some loving.
Yeah, I actually watched it for the first time. I think a month ago.
Yeah, because it was
A
on
month ago.
Hulu still, right?
No, it's actually in Disney
Oh, they
Plus.
put it on Disney Plus already. Because I remember the last time I watched it was on Hulu.
Yeah, it was definitely Disney Plus that I
Nice.
watched it, and I was like, wow, this is really dark. Like, how did kids not get nightmares? I mean, then again,
Yeah.
I watched a lot of like happy things in
Mm.
Disney when I was younger.
Yeah, same here for me. But I mean, like even then, like '90s, like even like the happy Disney stuff still has a bunch of dark moments in it. I mean, just look at Lion King. Like they straight up killed a dad in like
Have
the
you
first
seen
15
Bambi?
minutes. Don't even get me started on Bambi.
I still don't have the guts to watch that movie because I do not want to
Oh
cry.
God.
Anything with animal death makes me cry. It's literally the fact that in Depths of Fear, Halloween Horror Nights, a couple like I think it was last year. Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
the
the
dog,
dead dog,
the dead dog.
the
Yeah,
dead dog. I was like, oh no. I mean, I will still go through the house, but I
yeah,
would just feel sad. I was like, oh man, I'm sad, and then
the dead
I would kind of get
dog.
over it after I get a couple of chainsaws in me, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
And also with Babadook too, where like the dog dies in that one too.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like,
that's right. I forgot the
really?
dog died in Babadook. Oh my God, that's right.
Yo, Babadook gave me nightmares for a little bit. But I mean, I'm like an adrenaline junkie. I love
Mm,
horror, but I will still get scared. But I
yeah.
still love it. I'll watch it and I'll lose a couple of sleeps and then I'm over it. But I'm like, I still like it. I like the adrenaline rush. That's just me though.
Yeah. See, I'm like, because don't get me wrong, I love like like the Boss to the Wall like stuff. Like your Evil Dead's, your Texas Chainsaws, your like Fridays and stuff. But every once in a while, you kind of gotta slow it down. You gotta watch a movie with a slow burn. You gotta watch like a Midsummer, like a Hereditary.
Oh no. Midsummer. I actually had a guy at my job recommend me that movie
Oof.
and I've been wanting to watch it for a while. They're like it's literally a horror film in
Hmm.
daylight, and I'm like, interesting. How would a horror film in daylight work? I mean, if you really think about it, a lot of horror films are done during the nighttime most of the time. I know that there's
Exactly.
movies that they have shot scary things during the day,
Mm.
but not the entire time in the day.
Yeah.
Like it was just really like weird. And when it came to the scene where they're in the barn and there's
Hmm.
that semicircle of people, if you guys know what scene I'm talking
Oh yeah.
about, yeah, that was just not right. I mean, and they even said like it's talking about the whole the Swedish pagan holiday that it was inspired by, but it's obviously that it's not real. I mean, I
Yeah.
hope it's not real, but it's kind of like, that movie just. I mean, my dad. It left me and my dad left with questions. We're like, why? Like, how does this work? But it was still a good movie. I liked the way it was filmed. I liked the storyline, even though it was very disturbing. But it's kind of
Hmm.
like a David Lynch film or any
Yeah.
film, any director that does it is not scared to get under your skin.
Yeah. Like yeah, I would definitely say Ari Aster is just so good at doing that. Cause like even with Hereditary, you're like, yeesh, you're like a little, you're like uncomfortable, like 80% of that movie.
Oh yeah, I agree. I still don't know what was the deal with the boyfriend's friend with her. I kind of still didn't understand that part. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it.
Yeah, same. Yeah, same for me actually. Cause I bought it. I bought it recently because I'd only seen it like through a friend, but
I
I
think
actually bought a
it's
copy of it recently.
Freeman. I think it's free in Prime.
Hmm.
It might be free in Prime still. That's when I
Yeah,
watched it.
it's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely like slow burn wise, I think I would have to go for something like Alien.
Oh, Alien.
Cause I tell you, man, Alien takes its time. It really does. But like when like the shit goes down, it goes down.
I agree. Because like with Alien, I actually watched it once. I still need to like go back and watch it.
Mm,
But Alien is like is yeah, yeah, you would say it's a slow burn. That's the thing. I kind of don't remember a lot about that movie. I had to go back and watch it. I've
yeah.
seen it, but I just don't remember a whole lot other than the little things like chewing on the people's face and then just Alien coming out like very few times. It just only
Hmm.
reminds me so much of Great Movie Ride
Oh
when
yeah.
they did have that scene, which I
Rip.
heard that they repurposed for Finn for Rise of the Resistance. I was like,
That
why?
I thought that was just a rumor. I didn't think that was an actual like real thing until like I actually saw the animatronic for it. I was like, I mean, it does have like that Ripley like that same position that she had in the Great Movie Ride. So I'm like, is
Yeah,
it like an actual thing? Did they just repurpose Ripley and made it Finn?
yeah. And when he's like behind the little
Yeah, like the pillar
canteens,
or something like that.
the
Yeah.
pillars and all that stuff. Yeah, which I didn't really realize him. I thought he was a real person when I got on that ride. I was like, oh crap! But like
Oh my god,
they actually have actual like actors like in the ride. I'm like, that's not
it's really John
safe.
Boyega. Yeah.
I wouldn't know what else would be a slow burn movie.
So, I
Uh,
haven't seen it yet, but I keep hearing about it. Like I just haven't had a chance to see it. But The Lighthouse.
the Lighthouse. Yeah, is that a horror
Uh, I've heard it's more of like a cosmic horror, kind of like a Lovecraftian type of thing.
film?
I Because at the same time, I've kind of like tried to like stay away from like knowing too much about what it's about.
Yeah,
Because I just want to like see it with like a fresh set of eyes. You know, I don't want to know anything beforehand.
that's like a lot of films though. Like like before like you even try and see it, they're like, don't watch this movie. It has X, Y, and Z. Why? Social media sucks.
Yeah, like that's actually what I've been doing with like Tenet, like the new Christopher Nolan.
Oh yeah,
The only time I ever saw the trailer was because I was at the movies and they just happened to play it. But other than that, I haven't looked into that movie. I haven't seen anything about that movie just because like I don't want to.
yeah.
Kind of the same thing I did with Candyman.
Oh yeah.
Because like the Candyman, I've only seen like the second trailer. I think that was all like shadow puppets.
Mm.
Because that one was just like the story of Candyman. I'm like I've already seen the first like I've already seen Candyman, so I know like the story of like how he became Candyman. But like that trailer was like so just artistically just beautiful.
I haven't actually seen the recent Candyman trailer because I kind of don't want to ruin it for
Yeah. Well,
myself.
because like I said, yeah, like they came out with like one regular trailer, just like you know, like just advertising the movie. But
Yeah.
then like the second trailer that came out was really cool because it's just the story of like Candyman, like but told through shadow puppets.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And it's like I said, it's just like the regular story from like the original Candyman.
No, that's fair.
Yeah. It was just really cool. Yeah. Trying to think of like stuff in general, you know, like all right, actually, what are your thoughts on like remakes of horror movies?
Uh, I think most of the time, but like there's some that grow on me. Is basically an example would be Evil Dead. I think the
Oh,
remake was amazing.
yes. Yes,
It
that is
was, and I feel like it's a little
probably
bit better than the original, just a little bit, just a tad
I
bit.
would probably say it's the better or not even the better, like the best remake of a horror movie, tied up there with The Thing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I remember
Not the
watching the
2011
thing.
thing, the
Oh
82 thing, the John Carpenter
oh, kidding. Throw that out.
thing. Cuz
I mean, I only watched the actual um, the 2011 version, which still scared me. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the video game Dead Space.
Oh yeah, for
But
sure.
other than that, I don't think I've actually seen the 82 thing.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Um,
cuz like the way it was like made, it was they came out with like one in the 50s. It was called like I think it was called like The Thing from Outer Space or like The Thing from Another World or something like that.
oh, interesting.
And then that was very much like a goofy like 1950s movie because like the creature is just like a Frankenstein lookalike.
Uh,
But then the 82 movie is like it's one of those like another slow burn movie where like it takes its time getting to like to the stuff, but when it gets to it, like it's just pure insanity.
oh, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a good way to look at things. I mean, in back in the day, especially with like Frankenstein, that type of horror was like a little bit more scarier for people back then because something unknown comes to people and it just
Yeah,
turns into
exactly.
insanity. Everybody goes ablaze.
Yeah.
And the reason I say "aw" about the whole Frankenstein looking thing is because I think Frankenstein is super cute, and like he's just so innocent, and he's trying
Oh
not to
yeah, for
harm
sure.
people,
Don't
and
get
I'm
me
just
wrong.
like,
I
why?
like I love Frankenstein's monster. Like that's actually a tattoo I'm planning on getting. But like I just think it's funny how like because not gonna lie, the one from the thing from another planet or whatever that movie's called, it reminded me of the Frankenstein monster from Young Frankenstein,
The
where he
what
was just.
Frankenstein?
You haven't seen Young Frankenstein?
Oh, Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, like
Yes.
kind of like the bald Frankenstein.
Oh
Kind of
no.
reminded me of that. It was a little too goofy.
Aw.
Yeah, like there was no like nothing menacing about him, but there was also anything like aesthetically pleasing about him, you know?
Yeah. It's
Which is
also like when I first ever watched, I think Rocky Horror Picture Show. I watched it in 2018 because I had a friend when I used to work at Disney that really liked Rocky Horror Picture Show, and
hmm
she wanted me to take to a show. And I've never watched the movie, but when I went to see it with her, it was like this reminds me a little bit of like a retelling, a more fabulous, crazy because you don't really know what Rocky Horror Picture Show is really about, but it has like the subtext of Frankenstein, which is what I like about it, and
Oh
it's kind
yeah,
of weird.
for sure.
It's a real like it's a really interesting idea to actually like play with,
It is
and
definitely like it's like a 1970s glam rock remake of
of
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein
Yeah,
with you know
with a
Tim
lot of
Curry.
homoeroticism thrown in.
I agree.
Yeah, but it's definitely one of those like incredible like non-horror but like horror inspired movies.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely not like a scary movie or anything, but it's you can definitely tell it's been inspired by like a lot of like classic horror.
Yeah. I wonder what genre actually falls into if you would still consider it like a horror comedy, but not really.
I would
Um,
still say it falls under like maybe like a horror
musical
musical.
horror.
Yeah, like a horror
Yeah.
musical.
Now I have to think about like horror musicals. I think there was
Like
one like that
maybe
did
like Little
come
Shop of
out.
Horrors.
Little Shop of Horrors. Yeah.
Yeah, would that maybe
Sweeney
yeah.
Todd. Sweeney Todd's a
Sweeney, yeah,
horror.
there you go. That's like the perfect horror musical, Sweeney Todd. Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy Sweeney Todd. I started catching up with classic musicals lately, and Sweeney
Mm.
Todd had to be one of them for me. And I thought the how gory like Tim Burton had to make that film, and I was like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
this is very creepy
Except
for being such a happy sounding
yeah. The
musical. I
only
mean,
oh
not happy, but very up there.
the only thing that I hated about the Tim Burton version is the blood just straight up just looked like tomato sauce. It just was like the brightest red you could possibly think of. I'm just like the blood does not look that red. Just make it a little bit darker. Come on.
Wait, they actually had another version of Sweeney Todd, or I thought that was the only version.
No, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm just like talking about the Tim Burton version as opposed to like the stage version.
Oh
Yeah,
yes.
that's the only thing I didn't like about like the Tim Burton like movie. It's just like the color of the blood was just like way
I
too
don't think I've
crazy.
ever seen it in person. That's something
Hmm.
I'm gonna have to think
I would
about.
love to see. I would love to see the stage production of Sweeney Todd.
Ugh. It just breaks my heart with the whole Beetlejuice
Oh
being
yeah,
thrown out all of a sudden. I really wanted to watch that when I was in New
yeah, me
York, but
too.
I had the option of Lion King or Beetlejuice. If I would have known Beetlejuice was gonna go, I would have gone watched that instead. But
Mm.
they announced it, I think, 2 months after I came back to Florida. I'm like, why?
Oh man. No, but I don't think we can forget like I would say like the most bizarre current horror musical,
Hmm.
and that would be the film version of Cats.
Oh, I have not seen it. I
I
haven't.
refuse to even like acknowledge that movie exists unless like I'm making fun of it.
I mean,
I don't need to see
like,
cat buttholes on a TV screen right now.
I mean that. First of all, I'd be very concerned how that works. But did someone tell you that?
I heard there was like buttholes in that movie that like it got edited out, but like the original like theatrical version of it before it got like edited had like buttholes in it.
Oh, interesting.
And you could see like
Here's the
cat
thing.
buttholes.
I actually am very curious of to watching it to see because I think the animation for that for the trailer from what I've seen looks very beautiful and the way it's edited it kind of reminds me a little bit of Polar Express in a way like the
Mm,
way it's
kind of like
animated
the
which is
Uncanny Valley
why
type stuff.
yeah so it looks very I'm curious about it but I heard it was a little bit creepy
Mm,
especially when you're animating these type of people's faces onto cats and they are very animated kind of like Polar Express characters that's when I'm like it's a little skeptical I'm still gonna watch it so if I do watch it I will mention it in another podcast and I'll tell you guys what I actually think about it and I'll probably scar you if I do see a butthole.
oh God, I don't want to see cat buttholes. I just don't.
I'll take one for the team, it's
All
fine.
right, I appreciate you doing that. So what else?
Yeah, you're gonna
Trying to
have to edit
think.
this part out.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
Collecting wise, actually, do you collect a lot of horror stuff?
I do. I have been actually increasing because I didn't start really appreciating my love for horror until like I started working at a Petrified Forest as a scare actor, and I
Hmm.
realized how much I really liked horror, and especially since I also started buying the frequent fear passes for Halloween Horror Nights and actually getting to know the houses better by going through them a bunch of times, understanding the storylines, which makes me want to go and watch films based on
Yeah.
those and it just started to be one collecting mess. So like I have Halloween Horror Nights shirts. I actually have a lot of horror shirts now that have like a chainsaw with a bunny in it, and I also have like pops here and there of horror. And I consider this a horror. I have a Gizmo like a little Gizmo toy that I bought from
Oh, from Universal,
Universal,
right? Yeah.
and it's so cute. I know it's like a horror comedy, but it's so freaking cute. It's
It's
so
yeah, it's
freaking cute.
still yeah, Gizmo. It still has like horror elements, so I consider it a horror movie.
There's some people that are like, oh no, it's a Christmas movie. I'm like, no, I
Well, I
it
mean,
is
so is
still.
Die Hard, but
I still haven't actually seen Die Hard,
it's
and
like
I've been seeing.
Die Hard is a Christmas movie that it also happens to be an action movie, and Gremlins is a Christmas movie that also happens to be a horror movie with
Uh,
comedy.
thought it was gonna be Die Hard is like a horror film that's a Christmas film. That's like arguing between Nightmare Before Christmas. Is it a Halloween film or a horror film? I know that no, a Halloween film or a Christmas film. My bad. But I know that Tim Burton did confirm that it was indeed a Halloween film, so rather than a Christmas film.
I would just watch it as both.
Yeah, I mean, I still watch it in both holidays, even
Yeah,
though
exactly.
like the majority of the movie is actually Christmas.
Yeah, I
But I
was.
hate
But
to
yeah,
argue
it
with that. Yeah.
yeah like imagery wise, it's definitely a Halloween movie, but like I think like message wise, it would go more for like a Christmas movie.
Yeah, if you really think about it, it's very a Christmas story like, but in another way of telling it through Tim Burton's eyes and all
Yeah,
whimsical
it's
and
definitely
basically,
it's definitely like a dark like Rankin Bass movie, like the old like Rudolph and like Frosty the Snowman stuff. It's like that, but with a Tim Burton twist on it.
yeah. So, what would you say is your favorite Tim Burton film?
Tim Burton film, by far Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I enjoy Beetlejuice a lot, and I mean, I cosplay Beetlejuice, and I love, especially the imagery of Beetlejuice. But for me, it has to be Corpse Bride. It's one of those underrated,
mm. Oh yeah,
horror whimsical movies that it doesn't get enough love, and I love Corpse
that's
Bride.
true. It Corpse Bride is amazing, and it definitely deserves a lot more recognition than it does get.
Yeah, it's a very short film, which I get, but I just do like how it brings the really dead feel with the imagery, especially
Mm.
with the blues, the whites, the blacks,
Yeah,
and
for
it
sure.
does create that really dead look, like almost very cemetery like, which
Hmm.
reminds me a lot of Graveyard Games from
Oh
last year in
God,
Halloween
Graveyard
Horror Nights.
Games. Don't even get
So
me
it's
started on
just like
Graveyard
if you
Games.
were to put Corpse Bride like a reference there, it's like yes, I'm happy.
Yeah, don't even get me started on Graveyard Games though.
Why? What's wrong with graveyard games?
No, oh, believe me, there's nothing wrong with Graveyard Games. That's like that was tied with my favorite house for last year's Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah.
Like it's because one night I went over there and I went to Horror Nights and they were like just about to close, so there's like no lines anywhere.
Hmm.
So I went on Graveyard Games and I was by myself. Literally like no other line. It was just me.
It was just you. You
It
went
was
by yourself?
just me. I went well. It was with my family, but like I mean, it was like just us. It was like no group in front of us, no group behind us. It was just us three. And oh my god, it was the worst.
Why?
Cause I
I
just
was, I mean, you would still enjoy it, but I feel
oh I
like the
enjoyed it,
worst.
but like at the time, cause like when you're in there, I'm just like I just wanted to end. I keep getting all like the jump scares, and I just wanted to stop. Especially when you get to like that one hallway where it's like completely dark, and I think you're like covered in like curtains, and you feel like somebody's
Yeah.
touching you. I was like, I can't do this. Like I'm in here by myself, and it sucks.
It reminds me a little bit of Scarecrow.
Yeah, it was definitely like that. That's how I was at Scarecrow too, because the same thing happened to me at Scarecrow, where I went super late, and I was just in there with like my group of people, and that was it. And then the same thing happened this last year too, when I went on to a Nightingales.
Oh man, I hate nightingales. I cannot. The reason why I say I hate nightingales, it is actually a very good house. It was just very scary. I know that they're bird heads, and it's
Hmm.
kind of like they have like meat on their mask, and I don't blame them. But it was just very claustrophobic. It was very like they're in your face,
Oh
and
yeah.
like the smell, it was awful. Oh my gosh! But I do. But like one of my favorite like houses last year was like basically graveyard games and
Oh yeah.
Universal Monsters, and I feel like I did enjoy House of a Thousand Corpses more than I actually thought I wouldn't have. So, but I actually did. So,
Hmm. I was definitely super hyped for House of a Thousand Corpses last year, for sure. Because you know that I'm a Rob Zombie fanboy.
I know. I
So anything to
he's
do with Rob Zombie, I'm in.
it's like ladies, he's single. He likes Rob Zombie. Throw that ad in there. Kidding.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, ladies, he's single. He likes clowns. He wants to become Captain Spaulding at some point or another.
He likes clowns. Like how clowns are we talking?
We're talking like John Wayne Gacy clowns.
Oh, love that.
Oh yeah.
We always love a reference of Twisty in there. That's actually another good one. What is like your favorite television horror?
Okay. I don't know if it would be considered a horror show per se.
Yeah,
But Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks. I still haven't watched that.
Twin Peaks has, because it's definitely a drama. It
Yeah,
has like semblance of like a police, like a police procedural type of thing. But David Lynch has just has to add random stuff to it to the point where like it has some like really really creepy imagery in it,
yeah,
and like it's just got some like weird moments where I'm just like kind of freaked out by it a little bit.
yeah.
But I also have like a really unhealthy obsession with Twin Peaks.
I mean, I already saw your Facebook post. That's like people starting, people like in the third
Yeah.
season finishing. I was like, what? So basically, the meme was that there's a group of people alive in the basically in the
Like a
front on
roller
the right
coaster.
hand side on a roller coaster,
Yeah.
and they all have their flesh, and somehow there's a coaster like basically if you guys from Florida, like have been to Space Mountain, you see that one rocket just go past by you, and you're like, oh crap, like we're about to experience that in a bit. And there, that's another cart, and they're all dead. And those are the people leaving towards the third season of Twin Peaks. I'm like, what? So I'm like not understanding, but I guess from what his description is, that it's very creepy in a way, and I'm
Yeah,
probably
it's
gonna
got
give it
just
a watch this week.
some weird imagery.
I
Yeah.
think
And
for
it's funny
me,
because
it's
like once you see Twin Peaks, you'll see that like it's gotten to the point where like almost everything has to have like a Twin Peaks reference to it.
yeah,
Like it's just all over the place.
but like it's a Twin Peaks reference within the show.
No, I mean like in like other media, like other
Oh.
other things that reference Twin Peaks.
Uh,
To the point where I'm literally on a Facebook group that's just called "Is this a Twin Peaks reference?" and it's just people to
Damn.
point out references and like Twin Peaks references and like other shows or books and stuff like that.
I mean, at least you're not throwing a freaking Rem Lazar reference. God, kill
Oh, I'm
me.
sorry, we're talking about Rem Lazar now.
No, we're not. Please.
So, a quick word of advice, everybody: go on YouTube, look up Rem Lazar, and just bask in the glory of what is one of the weirdest things either one of us has ever watched.
I would consider it a horror film, at least in my eyes. I want to gouge it out. It's like, ah!
It is definitely a movie that when you watch it now, like in this generation, it's definitely like a horror movie.
Oh yeah, especially if you really love bad graphics and bad storytelling
Yes,
and
if you like
borderline
late 80s.
pedophilia, borderline pedophilia.
Yes,
Terrible.
if you like late 80s CGI, a healthy dose of pedophilia and super outdated references to stuff, then you will love Rem Lazar.
And according to that movie, it's like,
We will all come to love Rem Lazar.
no, not me. Goodbye. I'm out.
We all love Rem Lazar.
Okay, you got uncomfortably close to the microphone. God.
I'm sorry, were you asking for Rem Lazar? I thought you said God.
No, that's not God.
Rem Lazar is God.
No, guys, this is a horror podcast that is kind of horror, but like not a horror film. So don't take his word for it. Uh,
Yeah,
oh God.
So I guess I think we can end it here. I mean, I think we've covered a good variety of subjects.
Yeah, it's just a little introduction of
Yeah, plus
everything that
like
we
it
kind
kind
of
of
like and the
yeah,
kind
for
of things
sure.
that we'll probably talk about. It's not
Yeah, it definitely opens the
in
door for
depth.
like later episodes.
Yeah, and it's probably like one of those all the things that we have mentioned in this podcast. I'll probably just give it a watch, and then we can discuss it more. And
Oh,
everything's
for
just
sure.
gonna go really deep in this conversation
Oh
of
yeah,
this
for sure,
wonderful
definitely.
horror college
We can
podcast.
definitely we should definitely do like probably the next episode we could do a Horror Nights episode.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just
I
talk
would
about
love to
like
talk about
oh
horror
yeah,
nights.
cuz
I could
that's
talk
a that's
about
a
horror nights forever,
that's the one of the best topics that we can get into.
especially since now with the awful, terrible news.
Yep, we can definitely talk about that. We can talk about like our experiences with Horror Nights in the past, so
Yep,
there's a
absolutely.
lot to break down there. Yeah. All right. So, Vanya, where can people find you social media wise?
So you guys can find me on Twitter and on YouTube under HHN Cultist. I discuss things, all things horror nights. I also do horror nights makeup, and I do vlogs here and there whenever I have time to go to the park, or I feel like I'm starting to make other content that is still horror based, but also like 80s based as well. So
That's very cool. And for me, I have a YouTube, but don't really update it, so might get updated at some point. Mostly because I just don't have the time to anymore.
yeah,
But if you are interested, you can find me on YouTube as Red Cyborg Productions. I usually just do movie reviews on there. I posted a couple of the things like short films that I've made. Probably where I'll be posting future short films that I make. So we'll go from there.
that is also cool. He is also very good with the camera and a good editor. So
I try my
you should
best.
definitely check out his stuff. And if you guys don't care about either of those, you could just, uh, I mean, there's some people who have a variety of tastes, especially when it comes to entertainment. You
Very
could just
true.
find us in Sounds from the Grave, Twitter, Instagram, and Spotify and Apple, I think.
Apple and Spotify. Once this thing gets posted up, and actually, once I make like the YouTube channel for us, like for Sounds from the Grave, I'll probably post those on there too.
Sounds
So
good.
you have 3 ways to listen to them.
Yeah.
And yeah, and if you guys have any like suggestions as to like what you would like for us to talk about, or just have comments in general, just shoot us a message on Twitter, on Instagram, or just leave a YouTube comment, and we'll try our best to take care of that for you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we wish you all a happy day, happy good night if you're listening to this at night, and we'll see you on the next episode.
See ya.
Bye.